I didn't know that my grandparents were part of the Communist Party or informers, although I could imagine that would be the case. But still, to have it confirmed is interesting.
She got a shock today.
Welcome back to Family Book Talk, a family book club. So we read our first book as a family. We read I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I chose this book for us because the parents in this family group, they are Romanian, born and raised. And they actually left just before the revolution, so I thought it would be nice for all of us to read about the revolution and then to discuss. The kids, although we're not so childish anymore, the kids to be able to kind of better imagine what it was like for our parents during communist Romania, and yeah, then for us to be able to engage with our parents.
Hello from the future. So I thought I should tell you a little bit about the book before we get into talking about it. So I Must Betray You is about a boy named Cristian Florescu, who is a teenager in high school in communist Romania during Ceausescu's regime. This book takes place just months before the revolution, December 1989. He is convinced by somebody from the Securitate, the secret police, to become an informer. And he doesn't really have a choice. So that is why it is called I Must Betray You. It's really about informers, the guilt of being forced to be one and worrying about everyone else who might be one, and so on. That is a huge topic in this book. The book also talks about several other realities during communist Romania that we will talk about with my parents because they lived in communist Romania. My parents provide context, personal context, as well as historical context and their own experiences to enrich our reading of the story, after reading it, of course, as well as corrections to what the author claimed in the story. These are mostly minor corrections, but things that felt important to my parents to clear up. We also just get into whatever kinds of discussions that we get into, of course, within the context of communist Romania, but not necessarily specifically related to the book. Still, I think it provides interesting context for the time period and location. So yeah, keep watching for Romanian drama.
I will just say, I think the book did an excellent job of painting the picture of this atmosphere of fear, paranoia, and destitution. I think that was done really well, but the characters were not complex. That was a bit disappointing. Although you did have a range of attitudes towards the government, which was cool to see. Of course, I loved Bunu, the grandpa, Bunicu.
I'm very surprised that this book is written by a non-Romanian author. I have all the respect for this woman. She did a great job. Actually, it's a great description of the general environment we grew up in and we lived. Don't you agree, Irene?
I have different comments.
No, but on this one, do you agree what I said?
Yeah, but it doesn't feel real. It feels staged.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's a little bit forced, like a little bit...
it's too much at some point, you know.
She wanted to prove a point, a concept, if you want. I mean, to prove that this was not a fun time for us. And this is true, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed reading the book. I thought it was intriguing, mostly for me because I was thinking about the questions I could later ask you guys. I didn't like maybe the writing style of the book so much. I found it to be super straightforward to the point where I was missing this like literary artistic part of the writing that I was really looking for a little bit more. So it felt almost crude the way that some of the scenes were laid out. I don't know. That was my impression.
I wouldn't say it was crude. I would say it was very simple English and maybe meant for a younger audience. So I would
for me, I liked a lot. How it's
for
written, because
younger
I don't read that
audience-
much.
For the
So
youngest
audience,
audience
Dad.
member here.
for me, it was great.
It was
yeah,
maybe meant to feel like you're talking to these characters, very.
It was very straightforward,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I felt that it was written from the perspective of a young boy, from a young teenager, not extra intelligent or sophisticated, just like
She has a point.
average. And I would categorize this as a young adult novel. So for my preferences, I prefer more complex, more stylistically beautiful writing. But this does make the story more accessible, which maybe was the author's larger goal.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, I think I enjoyed reading the story. I also found maybe a lack of complexity in, I don't know, I felt like there were only a few characters we were really following, and if something is mentioned in the book at some point, it's almost like it's obvious to you that it's going to come up later. Like there's not this mystery. I feel like it was so direct. It was predictable somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was what I felt about the book. But I enjoyed learning about, just as you guys said, the atmosphere at the time, because I feel like I heard from your perspective talking about your life there, but delving into a story is a bit different, and I felt somehow more emotionally reading the words on a page what it must have been like to feel cold all the time.
This book happens to take place, or it's, in the building I used to live in. Okay?
What?
Yes. There are two, they talk about two buildings.
Apartment building.
Two apartment buildings. These are the apartment buildings I used to live in. Okay? In the one of them I used to live in.
Wow,
And
way to
my
bury the
friends,
lead.
I used to go to this school before I went to high school. That was, my childhood years. And my friends, when they went to high school, they went to this high school where these characters, went to. This is my area. I grew up in that very area. However, I left when I was 14, and this book the events take place when I was 24. So, but I'm very familiar with what they talk about. Okay.
I do not know about any house arrest or beating at home. Beating was happening in their facilities, not at home. Okay, this is something that I don't know. Are you aware of these kind of things?
No, but we were from the privileged,
What privileged?
I mean, nobody would knock on your door and try to ask you questions,
But we didn't have any Communist Party function to be privileged. These guys were privileged.
My parents had Communist Party functions.
Okay, so you were privileged.
Yeah.
Truth comes out.
My father
Okay.
was also a member of the Communist Party. My mother not.
Really?
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Why was your
Yeah.
dad a member?
They had to
Yeah.
to be a member, because otherwise they couldn't keep their position at the institution they were working. In the book, it looks like every single person from your entourage was an informer, which was definitely not true. Okay?
Have you checked? Have you checked that?
No, it was not.
Well, I have a revelation to make, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was not true. They were informers, all right, but not every single person.
Okay, an informer doesn't tell you he's an informer, okay?
Yeah, but not everybody.
Maybe, perhaps it was more to point out the fact that you didn't know who was an informant, and it felt like everybody.
That's true. That's true. You didn't know who's an informer,
The
but
fact that we were trying to make sure who we talked with, what we shared, that in itself, proved that we didn't know who might be an informer. My father was an informer, which was a secret in the family. My
So
parents
you knew.
I knew, but that's how I knew. My parents were both in high positions within the Communist Party, because they were, in the medical profession. They were in charge with hospitals and things. You had to be a Communist Party member. There's no choice. And my father also was allowed to travel abroad and to present papers. And also, you cannot do that without being a party member. And because he was so involved, he was forced to be an informer. It wasn't like he had a choice. But because he was an informer, he told us, you cannot say anything, you cannot do anything, I cannot meet with our friends from abroad or our family from whenever, people coming from abroad, we couldn't, he would not be present. We were present, my mother and I.
Oh, so you were allowed, just not when he was around.
He didn't talk about us, but this way he didn't have to inform.
Right.
Or, I met with these people and I spoke such and such, whatever. So he, to them, he wasn't a good informer because he wasn't informing on anyone, but there was a file. So when I came back to Romania now, after, 8 years ago, I was given my file to look at and my mother's file and not my father's. And they told me my father's file, unfortunately, was lost in a fire, which is not true. But I was so upset that I said, I'm not interested in looking. I mean, I know what I did, right? What am I going to say, see there? I left. So I couldn't see my father's file. Okay, then the last thing I want to say, I saw a friend of mine in Paris last month, who I know from high school, a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about, this book and in general, and he said, our common friend, such and such, he was an informer. And he told me, he said, don't tell me anything because I have to inform everybody. So just, how is the weather and nothing beyond that.
Small talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not everybody was an informer, but there were people. And the people,
But you didn't know who is.
The people who were close to us told us. Right?
So they were allowed to tell you that they were informers. What if
No, they were not
someone found
allowed.
out?
They're not allowed, but we, to make sure that we didn't end up in trouble. If we made a joke about Ceausescu or something, I don't know. Or if we said, let's say, if someone says, I want to leave this country, as an informer, you have to report that.
You have to report whatever you want to report. There's not like, if you know something, you have to report everything you know. It's hard to check you, but they check if they have 2 or 3 in the same circle, they check with
sometimes
more.
The informers had microphones. You have to be careful what you say.
Going to my notes here, there was not forbidden to talk with foreign citizens. Everybody I know, they were talking with foreign citizens. We were talking with a lot of foreign citizens without being warned or punished or anything, right?
Yeah.
That thing. This being said, we had a lot of relatives in Israel, and we were getting a lot of presents from them without being asked to what was that and what was that for. So,
if you are an informer, you have to inform. You are not an informer.
No, but they maybe an informer could inform because everybody knew that I get presents from Israeli relatives at school. So they could inform on me, and I could have get punishment or something. It didn't happen, okay?
Okay.
As far as you know, nobody looked at your gifts to see what was there or tried to stop them or anything.
No.
Definitely not. Another thing that I noticed, there was not against the law to gather groups together. This is also an exaggeration.
What years did each of you leave Romania?
I left,
at the end.
I left at the end of September 89, 2 months before.
Really?
I left right
wow.
And I left in 87.
If you had stayed 2 more months, you had seen the revolution, would you still have wanted to leave?
Many people left. A lot of our friends left right after.
Okay.
Actually, most people who left Romania left right after. And then there was a second wave when Romania became part of Europe.
Of course, most people left after, because before that, they were not able to leave.
No,
but maybe after the revolution, they would have been motivated to
after
stay.
the revolution, if there is a sense of hope, maybe we would have stayed.
Maybe.
So after the revolution, when people left, did they leave as refugees still?
No, they left. No, it was free. They left like that.
Most of them, they left to Western Europe.
Yeah, not as refugee.
Not as refugee, but they left to
Not a-
Western Europe for better wages, better
Their
life.
families. They had families. They stayed with
Okay.
them.
I want to talk about what the book was not mentioned or not mentioned enough. Lack of food. People did not have food in the house. They didn't have what to eat, almost at all.
So
Number one.
actually, that's something I did notice from the book. That was worse than I had imagined from the way that you both had told us about your time in communist Romania.
Yeah.
The book actually, I think, pointed out really strongly for me how the lack of food, that you would wait in line, you didn't know for what, and then get a rotten, expired
Yeah.
can of whatever.
For you, maybe it was a shock because you are coming from a society that doesn't have any problems finding food in the stores, right? But
Yes,
I'm telling you, lack of food was really bad in Romania. Was worse than what they said in the book.
It really sounded like people were malnourished. So
the food part
Did you
hit me
see-
hard.
the cold part hit me hard, and the food part
Yeah.
hit you hard. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel did you feel like the people around you and maybe you yourself were malnourished and were showing signs of malnourishment? Like, did you feel like people were stunted, their growth was stunted, that they were wasted, that they were?
There are people stunted.
Yeah, but
There are people here from malnourishment, but not people we know.
yeah, but at the end of the day, what can I tell you is when you go to the there was like a store which is called Aprozar. Aprozar, it's a store that they sell fruits and vegetables, right? At that store, you couldn't find almost anything, but only two items: potatoes and how do you call this? Crevettes, fulgi. How do you call it? This
Some prepackaged food from Vietnam. I don't
some prepackaged snacks.
snacks.
So can you believe that, or the combination potatoes and prepackaged snacks from Vietnam or something? It doesn't matter. What matters is that potatoes was the food of everybody.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have anything else. You were eating potatoes. Potatoes always you can find. That's why we love potatoes.
I thought you would hate it after all this time.
Yeah.
What about bread? Was bread common? Because you love bread.
Well, it was rationed though.
Yeah, in Bucharest was the only city that didn't have.
We had to
Ration of that,
had,
ration,
I don't know,
okay.
2 breads a day. I don't know.
Yeah, but not in Bucharest. In
Yeah, but-
Bucharest, they were asking me to bring
Yeah.
bread to
It was you could sell it
to other places in
give you
the.
water.
So was there a lot
mean,
of
I
black
just-
market activity? Sorry, to sell goods that you could find in one city or in one store
Yeah.
and not
It
another?
wasn't selling. It was a bartering. You give me that, I'll give
Yeah,
you that.
so there was a black market. I was part of this black market because I was working in Topoloven, which was a city like 100 kilometers from Bucharest, and they didn't have butter there. And I had somebody staying in line in Bucharest to buy butter, and I was getting every week or 2 weeks, 10, 12 packs of butter. I was bringing to Topoloven, this city that I was working in, including to the chief engineer, managing director. Everybody was getting butter from me. I didn't get any extra money for that because this was not the point, to make a business out of it. But because I was getting butter also to the store owner, not store owner, store manager in Topoloven, that was a food store manager.
It was state owned, so he couldn't have been. the
Yeah,
owner.
so the food store manager, he was getting butter from me, and he was giving me some good salami that I was not able to find in Bucharest. So I was getting food from everywhere I could, and I was getting to my sister and my sister's family at that time. My parents were already out of the country; they were already in Israel. But yeah, my sister kids were well fed from my salami that I was getting from Topoloven.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, my mother would receive food as presents. She was a doctor. People would give doctor stuff.
So
My mother
they
would
would
never
give.
take. My mother would
Sorry.
not take money. That's the thing, because
What about
if you're
cigarettes?
caught, yeah,
They wouldn't give you cigarettes?
if you're caught taking money, you can go to prison. But if you can take presents, right? So she would receive cigarettes, but that was at some point people would rather receive food. Okay, as the country
Just a
became
second.
less and less, poorer and poorer, I suppose. People would give food to the doctors. So
Yeah, but
wait a minute.
Go.
And so she wouldn't get potatoes because we could get the potatoes, but she would get, a chicken or something. And one day she came home with a bag of parsley, and she told me, "People are very poor now. I didn't get any chicken." She brought home
Parsley, can you believe that?
A bunch of parsley.
Parsley. That was the lowest of the low.
Yeah, but the book pointed out very well that Kent cigarettes were actually the currency in Romania at that time.
The black market currency.
Yeah, you could get almost anything based on Kent cigarettes, and also, that's right.
Yeah.
The one on the right, and also another currency was the coffee pack. There were coffee packs from Israel we were getting from our relatives.
Yeah, the cigarettes were better.
The cigarettes were that, but also the coffee.
The packages you were getting from your relatives in Israel, was it gifts for you or was it currency for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
They had both functions.
I guess the last big impression I got was that it really felt like the book described this huge atmosphere of fear. Like it really described all of the relationships that Christian had through the book, kind of faced trials throughout directly because of the communist regime, directly because of the mass surveillance. You couldn't trust anybody, not even the people inside your own home. So it really drove people apart in the book. And I wonder if that's something that you experienced maybe with friends or with relatives or neighbors, if you really felt that the regime infiltrated somehow your relationships.
We were not, you see, people were either rather chosen from the poor or the less privileged or people in need. Like the grandfather with a medication. So we were not necessarily considered in need. So it was hard to infiltrate, and people around us were about the same, like us. So
because you came from the privilege, which is all very relative, because your privileges still meant that you were hungry but not desperate. You didn't see as much of the effects of the desperation of the people and what that would lead to.
For me, the lack of freedom was the worst, I couldn't travel, I couldn't go out, I couldn't, we had, everything was, you couldn't read books that were not here. It was hard, right? We didn't know what was happening outside, but we had food on the table. We weren't like starving like everybody else, but we didn't have heat in the home either, right? Anyway, he left. He didn't live the last 2 years to see how bad it got.
Yeah, I didn't. I was not in Romania in 88 and 89.
He left in 87. It got worse after he left.
I can imagine that in the time leading right up to the revolution, it must have been the worst of all the years before, of all the time before.
Yeah.
People were really hungry.
And it sounds like being a doctor was one of the most lucrative jobs in terms of...
Anywhere in the world, not just in Romania.
No, I mean, okay.
I think it works everywhere.
Yeah, but Hannah means because people really... Yes, everywhere people really need doctors, but in Romania, because of the culture of favors and gifts, it became a very beneficial position to have in communist Romania.
But is it the communist regime that led to this culture of favors and gifts or contributed to it, or is it that this culture was already existing and then...
The existing culture.
Yeah, the culture existed because not just doctors got gifts.
No, Hannah is asking if before communism, if there was
Before communism,
still
I don't
the
know.
gifting
We don't know.
culture.
This is a very interesting question. We don't know. Yeah, this is something we should do.
I think communism was the one that triggered this Spaga, or gifts and
Yeah.
money and Kent and all these things.
Yeah, I think it's anywhere you go, if you have something to offer, you're in a better position. Let's say you're applying for a job right now, not in communist Romania, in the world. And if you know someone, you're more likely that someone will at least you'll look at your CV and maybe even hire you. So that is not necessarily related to communist regime. It's a human thing, I suppose.
I think it's more like a Latin thing. I think that Anglo-Saxons, they don't behave like that.
I don't know.
No. Just Latins are like this.
It's a good question.
Yeah. And another thing that was really bad in the winter, that was very cold in the house. They didn't have any heating.
They did mention in the book. It was mentioned in the book that they wore, like the sister made for Christian. His sister made him a coat made of a duvet.
But we used to go to school and we would write with our gloves on because we couldn't take our clothes off because it was too cold inside. It was actually colder inside than outside.
Yeah, I think that was mentioned in the book.
Okay.
Actually.
I think I suffered a lot from that, so that's why I think the book was mentioning, like, by the way, not in purpose, not.
I see.
Actually, this is something that really resonated with me in the book. Maybe because
I know you are very
personally,
sensitive to this subject.
I'm cold all the time, and maybe this is something that was passed down to me.
Genetically speaking.
Communist times.
Intergenerational trauma passed through the genes.
And I was thinking, how horrible would this be? To just be cold constantly, and you're wearing so many layers, and you sleep in those layers. You don't even change when you get up, and when you shower, the water's cold. And
everything is cold.
Yeah, the water is cold when there is water. Otherwise, there is no water.
No water sometimes.
The water's cold and you're shivering because it's also cold when you step out. I mean, did people get sick? Did they get hypothermia?
Imagine having lice and no water to clean your hair. Yeah. Right now, people are trying to be, tend to have the heat going too much here in homes compared to other countries because they want to compensate for the lack of heat.
Actually, in Romania, in the winter,
Never again.
You go in the stores, and you go in the cinemas and the theaters, whatever, for play, to see a play, and it's too hot to stay in the winter.
Another thing that really stuck out to me was the rabid dogs. Oh my God. I mean,
that's why Mom doesn't like dogs.
Can you speak on this? That there were wild dogs
there were lots
running
of
around,
them. Lots
hunting
of them.
children in the street.
There were
lots of them.
Yeah.
They were hungry too.
Yeah.
But not all of them. They had the rabies.
Yeah, but some were.
Some, yes. You didn't know which one had it. So
you cannot pet a dog on the street. That's it.
If you got a dog bite, you had to go to the hospital and do some injections, anti-rabies injections.
Yeah.
Were you scared of getting bitten?
No, but I was avoiding dogs, right? So I never got bitten.
My dog will be well trained. Don't worry.
Okay.
If you watched until the end, I'm really impressed and I'm really proud of you. If you have any other questions about the real lived experience of communist Romania, put them in the comments and I will see if my parents feel like answering them.